Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone.
Picture this. You've just walked into your cousin's engagement dinner. The string lights are up, someone's laughing too loud near the dessert table, and every single person in that room already seems to know exactly what to say to each other. You find a chair near the wall, and you hold your glass of sparkling water with both hands like it's the only solid thing left in the room. Your mind goes completely white. Here's what I need you to hear, gently but firmly. You are not broken. You are not socially behind. You are not the quiet one who missed some class everyone else got to attend. You are a deep feeler in a world addicted to noise. You carry whole conversations inside your chest, real ones, meaningful ones. But the moment someone hands you small talk, it feels like being asked to play a song on an instrument you've never held. And meanwhile, there's always one relative. We all have one, who strolls in, kisses 3 cheeks, makes a joke about the caterer, and by the end of the night has exchanged phone numbers with someone he met 90 seconds ago. What does he know that you don't? Here is the truth nobody tells quiet people. You already have the advantage. You were simply never handed the instructions. Small talk isn't a personality trait. Some people are born with and others aren't. It's a rhythm, a structure, a quiet science with invisible signals running underneath it. And once you can finally see those signals, the fear starts to dissolve. Today, I'm going to hand you that structure. Not a script for becoming loud. Not a costume where you pretend to be the life of the party. A real, practical, 6-part system that will let you open a conversation with anyone, anywhere, without feeling like you're auditioning for a role you never wanted. But before we get to the steps, we have to fix something deeper. Because most of us who struggle with this, we've misunderstood the entire purpose of small talk from the very beginning. The misunderstanding, that's been sabotaging you. You walk up to a stranger and your body tenses like you're stepping onto a stage. Your inner voice starts narrating. Say something clever. Say something that proves you're interesting. Don't let them think you're boring. Stop right there. I want you to release that pressure completely. Because here's the secret. Nobody is scrutinizing you the way you're scrutinizing yourself. Small talk was never a performance. It was never a test of your worth or your wit. Small talk has exactly one job in this entire world: to make another human being feel noticed. That's it. Not impressed, not entertained, noticed. In a time when most of us scroll past each other with our eyes glued to a screen, when strangers pass like ghosts in elevators and grocery lines, the simple act of looking up, actually looking up, and naming something you both notice sends an ancient, quiet signal. I see you. You are not invisible today. So let this sink into your bones. You don't need to become more interesting. You need to become more observant. You don't need charisma. You need attention. That shift alone will change everything that follows. Now, let's walk through the 6 steps. # notice something, then think out loud. The number one mistake deep thinking people make when trying to open a conversation is turning it into an interview. So what do? Where are you from? Have you been standing here a while? These are closed doors disguised as questions. They demand the other person dig through their own head and hand you a report. Nobody enjoys being interrogated, even gently. Instead, I want you to activate what I call your observation radar. Stop trying to mine your brain for the perfect opening line. Look outward instead, at the shared environment around you both. There's a beautiful piece of psychology here. When 2 people focus on a third, neutral object together, the pressure of direct eye contact simply evaporates. Your job isn't to find something clever to say about them. It's to notice something ordinary, slightly funny, or mildly absurd in the world you're both currently standing in. And just say it, like a thought escaping out loud. Let's say you're at the airport, and your flight has been delayed for the 3rd time, the departure board flickering with the same unchanged time for 40 minutes. Don't turn to the stranger beside you and ask if their flight is delayed too. Instead, glance at the board, sigh just slightly, and say, I think this flight is on a spiritual journey of its own and simply hasn't found its way back yet. Or you're standing in line at a busy Saturday farmer's market, the line barely moving, someone up front deep in conversation with the vendor about heirloom tomatoes. Instead of asking, is this line always this slow? Just murmur, at this point, I might just retire here and grow my own tomatoes. Do you see the difference? You haven't forced anyone to answer. You've simply tossed a small life raft into the silence, a perspective. If they want to grab it, they will smile and pick it up. If they don't, you've lost nothing. You were only commenting on a delayed flight or a slow line. No exposure, no risk of rejection. And once someone reaches for that life raft and responds, this is where it matters most that you don't let the moment go flat. That's where step 2 comes in. Never let the ball drop. Let's say the stranger at the airport laughs and says, honestly, I think every flight out of this gate has been cursed today. I've missed a connection because of this exact gate before. Wonderful. They took the bait. But here is where most quiet, careful people trap themselves without realizing it. Because you're nervous, your instinct is to reply with something small and safe. Yeah, really? Wow. And just like that, you've closed a door that was wide open 30 seconds ago. Conversation is like a game of catch. When someone tosses you the ball, you cannot simply catch it, tuck it under your arm, and walk away. You have to throw it back. And the tool for throwing it back is what I call the open reflection. A light guess, a gentle observation about what they just revealed. Instead of interrogating them further, respond to the feeling underneath their words. They say, I've missed a connection because of this gate before. You could say, I'm guessing you've developed a very specific hatred for this particular gate number. Or someone's holding an enormous cup of coffee at 7 a.m. and you comment, that coffee looks like it's doing the heavy lifting for both of us this morning. They laugh and admit, honestly, I was up until 2 a.m. finishing a work deadline. You respond, you look like someone who just wrestled a deadline to the ground and won. Are you recovering okay? This kind of response does 2 quiet, powerful things. First, it proves you are actually listening, not just waiting for your turn to talk. Second, it invites them to tell you a small story instead of giving a flat yes or no answer. People, almost universally, love being invited to talk about their own experience, as long as you're reaching for the right thread. # you are allowed to redirect. This next part I call the quiet superpower of redirecting. Sometimes the other person will ask you a question, but it will be a dull one. How was your weekend? Busy week at work? If you answer with total honesty, I just did laundry and reorganized my pantry, or work has just been the usual. Congratulations, you've just quietly ended the conversation yourself. Here is a permission slip I want to hand you right now. You are not in a courtroom. Nobody has sworn you in. You are not obligated to give the complete, literal truth to every casual question. You are allowed, always, to guide a conversation toward ground where you actually feel alive. So if someone in the office break room asks, busy week? And your week has genuinely just been spreadsheets and emails, you might say, about the same as always. But I've actually been trying to learn how to make sourdough bread, and last week's loaf came out looking like a hockey puck. See the structure? Give a short, honest nod to the original question, maybe 10% of your answer. Then add the word but and pivot toward the 90% that actually lights something up in you. Or someone asks, did you do anything fun this weekend? You say, nothing too exciting, but I finally started that true crime podcast everyone's been talking about, and now I can't stop thinking about it. Have you ever gotten pulled into one of those? You've just turned a dry, obligatory question into a doorway towards something you genuinely care about. And here's the beautiful part. When you talk about something that excites you, your voice changes. Your eyes change. You become magnetic without trying, because passion is the one form of charisma that quiet people carry naturally. So build that doorway yourself instead of waiting for someone to hand it to you. You have momentum now. But this is exactly the moment many people ruin it, by talking too much, which brings us to step 4, #, let silence do some of the work. Now we need to talk honestly about silence, because for many of us, it is the true nightmare hiding underneath every conversation. Once we've pushed past that first wave of discomfort and the words finally start flowing, We become terrified the conversation will die, so we don't stop talking. We fill every gap. We over-explain. We ask a question and then, out of anxiety, answer it ourselves before the other person even opens their mouth. I need you to take a breath right now and hear this. Conversation was never meant to be a solo performance. When you toss the ball, you have to stand still long enough to let the other person actually catch it. After you share a thought or ask a gentle question, close your mouth. Hold eye contact. Let a small, warm smile rest on your face. Count quietly in your head. 1, 2, 3. That 3-second pause is not an awkward silence. It is an intentional one. It gives the other person's mind room to actually process what you said, gather their own thoughts, and decide what they want to offer back. If you keep rushing to fill every gap, you're unknowingly stealing their chance to participate, turning them into a passive audience instead of a partner in the exchange. Remember this, because it will change how you walk into every room from now on. The most gifted conversationalist in any space is rarely the one who talks the most. It is the one who creates the most comfortable silences, the ones that invite someone else to lean in and fill them. And once that pause opens the door, your real work begins. Because now it's time to search for something deeper. Step 5, #, follow the breadcrumb, not the small talk. This is the moment small talk quietly transforms into something real. This is where quiet, observant people finally take the lead, because we were built for exactly this part. During any conversation, people constantly drop small, glowing breadcrumbs inside their sentences, tiny keywords buried in the middle of something ordinary. Your job is to actually listen closely enough to catch them. Here's an example. You ask someone, "Was traffic rough this morning?" They answer, "Honestly, yes. But I'm also just exhausted because my dog had emergency surgery 2 nights ago and I've barely slept since." A person on autopilot would reply, "Ugh, traffic really is the worst these days." And just like that, they've walked straight past a small treasure chest, because the most valuable word in that sentence was never traffic. It wasn't even exhausted. It was my dog. That is where the emotion is actually living. That is what they actually care about in this moment. So gently, warmly, pick it up. "Oh no, is your dog doing okay now? What happened?" Suddenly, the dull conversation about traffic disappears entirely, and you've stepped into something that actually matters to this person. This works with almost anything. Someone mentions they love hiking. Ask what the most breathtaking place they've ever stood was. Someone mentions they're burned out from work. Ask what the very first thing they'd do if they won the lottery tomorrow and never had to go back. Someone mentions their daughter is starting college. Ask how they're feeling about that, underneath the practical logistics. Once you find the current running underneath the surface, the thing you both genuinely care about, you've quietly unlocked the emotional wall between two strangers. At that moment, small talk has finished its job completely and stepped aside, making room for something real, actual human connection. And finally, if you know how to open a door well, you also need to know how to close it gracefully. That's step 6, #, the graceful goodbye. There will be days when you do every single one of these 5 steps exactly right, and the conversation still stays flat. Maybe they're distracted. Maybe they're simply tired. Maybe the two of you just don't share a spark today. That is completely okay. One quiet conversation does not define your worth as a person. But here is the fear that keeps so many of us frozen before we even begin. If this conversation gets boring or awkward, how do I leave without hurting anyone or embarrassing myself? That fear of having no exit is often the very thing that stops us from ever opening our mouths in the first place. So I want to hand you an emergency exit right now, one you can carry in your back pocket forever. The rule is simple. Be warm, smile, and offer a neutral reason that has nothing to do with the other person. I'm going to go grab a refill. It was really lovely talking with you. I don't want to keep you. Feel free to go mingle. I'm going to wander over to the food table. Light, kind, clean. And here's the quiet relief in this. The other person will likely feel just as grateful for the graceful ending as you do, because now neither of you has to force the conversation past its natural end. When you know you always have an exit available, you walk into every room lighter, freer, less afraid, # the bigger truth. We've walked through all 6 steps now. Let me pull back the curtain on one final important truth. Mastering this has never been about walking into a room and lighting it up like a spotlight, shaking every hand, hugging every stranger, becoming the loudest, most magnetic person in the space. That is a Hollywood fantasy. It is not the real, quiet mastery I'm describing to you today. Real mastery looks like this: standing in line at the pharmacy and simply knowing, with calm, quiet certainty, that if you wanted to, you could open a warm conversation with the person in front of you at any moment. Real mastery is when a conversation drifts into silence, and instead of panicking, you simply breathe and let it exist. Real mastery is saying something, receiving only a short nod in return, and not replaying it in your mind at 2 a.m., wondering what you did wrong. You simply let it go. We've been taught, somewhere along the way, that we must always say something impressive to be worthy of being in the room. I want you to release that belief today, gently but completely. Small talk was never about talking. It was always about attention. It is the quiet ability to step outside the glass box of your own self-consciousness, look at the person beside you, and let them feel, even for 30 seconds, genuinely seen. And here's the part I most want you to sit with: careful observation, deep listening, noticing subtle details, reading the emotion underneath someone's words. Aren't these the exact gifts that quiet, feeling people have carried their whole lives? We were handed one of the richest toolkits for human connection at birth. We simply were never taught how to open it. That sensitivity you've spent years quietly apologizing for, it was never your weakness. It was always your unfair advantage. So the next time you're standing in a slow-moving line, or waiting in a stalled elevator, or sitting quietly at the edge of a party, don't disappear into your phone to hide from the room. Look up. Turn on your radar. Notice something small and true, and say it out loud. Worst case, they don't respond, and your life goes on exactly as peacefully as before. Best case, you've just planted one small, real, human connection into a world that is starving for exactly that. If this found you at the right moment, I want you to do 3 things for me before you go. Type, "I am reclaiming my peace" in the comments below, so I know this reached you. Share this with the one person in your life who still believes they're just not good at talking to people, because they need to hear this is not true. And subscribe, so the next time your quiet heart needs a reminder of its own strength, it's already waiting for you. You were never too quiet for this world. You were only ever underestimated by it, including, sometimes, by yourself. I am reclaiming my peace.